Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Raven Maureen, and today I'm going to be sharing with you all of the questions that you guys have asked me over the last week, because this is Ask Me Anything. And so I've got some really great questions here, mostly related to sewing and whatnot. So let's go ahead and dive in. So before we jump into these questions, I just have to say thank you guys so much. This channel, my channel, now has over 3,000 subscribers. I am so excited. I love my community on YouTube. I love all of you guys. Thank you guys for encouraging me, for watching, for going through all of this with me, whether that's sewing, watching my vlogs, or just anything like that. So as a really big thank you, I'm doing a giveaway, and I'm giving away a mystery box of my pattern weights. So I'm going to link my Etsy shop down below, and you guys can take a browse and whatnot, but I will not tell you what pattern weights they are. It'll be a mystery. So what I need for you guys to do to enter to win is, of course, be subscribed to this channel, watch this video, and let me know what your favorite pattern weight design is below in the comments. And at the end of the week, I will announce the winner. May the odds ever be in your favor. So question number one, what is my favorite pattern? And I was just talking to one of my friends about this. One of my favorite patterns is McCall's 7757. And I promise you, I will riot in the streets if this pattern ever gets out of print. And it's so popular that I doubt it will, but I love this pattern. I have taken this pattern with me on nearly every vacation I've taken since 2018. And I think it came out in that 17-18 range or so, but it's an off the shoulder top. It is a crop top, but I have always extended it because my bust is bigger, so I've made it like 2 or 3 inches longer. And then it is like wide leg pants with like an elastic band. Just, it's perfection, and it is so tropical, so beautiful. I feel like it's been often imitated, never duplicated. Like, I think New Look has something out that's kind of like it, but it's not quite the same. But I love McCall 7757, like, hands down. Also, this kind of doubles as a tried and true for me, just because I have made the pants probably, I can't count how many times I have, but I've made them quite a bit, probably about 4 or 5 times. And then the off the shoulder top, I think I've made about 8 or 9 times. Honestly, yeah. So that leads me to, someone did ask, like, what is a tried and true pattern? And I feel like you don't look for the tried and true pattern. The tried and true pattern finds you. And McCall 7757 is that for me, but another one that is probably more of a tried and true that I've probably made 20 times. I can tell you how to make it on a bias cut. I can tell you how to make it crop, make it long, make it a dress, put a slit in it. It's like, you know, Bubba Gump shrimp. It's like shrimp sandwich, fried shrimp, broiled shrimp. I could tell you how to make the Ogden cami about 20 different ways because I've done it. And that is the God honest truth, my real tried and true pattern for sure. It's one of those patterns where I probably have to look at the directions one time to figure out what the seam allowance is, and then I shut my laptop and then I just go to town. If I'm in like a serious rut and I just want to keep my hands busy, I will either sew the Ogden cami or McCall 7757. So question number 2, how much time do I sew weekly? Honestly, it depends. It depends on my schedule. So if I do not have as many Etsy orders, or if I'm not producing as much YouTube content, it could be quite a bit of sewing. And it also depends on the project. So if it's a project that it's a very meaty project, I really want to get into it and whatnot, then I will probably be sewing every day for hours on end. If it's something where it's a meaty project and I know I need to take this in bite-sized chunks, then I'll do it every day for like 30 minutes to an hour. Now, if it's something that I know I can whiz through, I may sew it continuously for the whole day or for 2 days straight, and then not sew for 2 more days. So it really, that question really depends on the project I'm working on. But am I sewing every day? Yes. Weekly? Yes, obviously. But yeah. What is my most challenging garment? I would have to say this is two. I have two of these, and they're for different reasons. One of my most challenging garments was a denim jacket I did a traditional classic denim jacket with all the top stitching, the snap buttons, all of that stuff. And I had started that project in June of 2020, and I was going like, and I knew it was going to be a meaty project, but I was just going, and then I hit a wall with the welt pocket that needed to be top stitched. Whew. And so I put it down, and then I picked it back up in the fall, and then in the fall I finished it and whatnot. But it was challenging because it was so much top stitching, and the top stitching was, you know, your traditional coppery denim color, and then I had like this really stark dark denim fabric I was using. And so it was challenging because you could really point out every imperfection. And was I like starting and restarting top stitching? Yes, in crazy amounts. And it was at that point that I realized, like, okay, if I am to work on denim or any sort of denim project, I probably need two machines. So I was working on two different machines with that project for the simple fact that I needed one machine to be set up for top stitching for efficiency, and then the other machine had to be streamlined for just the straight stitches. And that is what seemed to help me, but it was challenging. It was very hard, and I would love to make a denim jacket again, but I don't know, y'all. That was hard. And it wasn't lined or anything. It was the top stitching, and there was a tutorial. It was the unisex one that Mimi G had, and the tutorial was awesome. It's amazing. I think it's a pretty lengthy tutorial because it's such a lengthy project, but also it is the project itself that made it hard. So that was one of my most challenging, also most rewarding projects. And I love that denim jacket. When I wear it, I feel so proud. But in the midst of that project, there were a few times where I was like, I give up. Then my other challenging project, and I have to call this out because this was terrible. So what happened is that I made this double-breasted blazer, and I wanted to make this double-breasted blazer, and I was really seeking out this specific pattern to make this blazer because I wanted it to be boxy and just kind of have like this masculine but feminine energy with it and stuff. I had sourced this pattern, and I'm going to tell you guys the pattern because buyer beware, and I mean that. The pattern was by Style Arc, and I love this pattern for the lines, the line illustration. And the pattern, I think when you buy it, you only buy like 3 sizes at a time. So the first time I bought it, I bought like the finished garment measurements for the pattern, and I was like, oh shoot, like did I just buy the wrong size? Because it was like gonna give me like 5 or 6 inches of ease in the chest area. And then part of me was like, you know what, that actually might be good for you because this is a boxier pattern. You do want to be able to layer stuff. So, you know, that was like the first thing. I was like, dang, I wish that I had more of a range of sizes, but they only give you 3 sizes per purchase. And I went off of the information that I had at the time about what these finished garment measurements were. Strike number 2 was I printed out the pattern, and I was like looking through what I printed out, and I was like, where are the instructions? Baby, it was a fully lined, double-breasted blazer with traditional welt pockets, and it came with only a sheet, one 8.5 by 11 sheet of written out step-by-step instructions. I was mortified, and I was actually very upset that a company thought it was okay to do that. Like, it's almost like, did you want anyone to make this pattern? So I made the pattern, and luckily I already knew how to make a blazer. Because I've made a handful. I've made quite a few blazers, and I knew how to do that, but it was the other things. It was okay, you know, I need to research how they want me to put this lining together, because the lining that had a different curve to it. As a matter of fact, let me pull this project out. So I just realized I never actually closed the lining of this, but to be honest with you, after all the work I did, who cares? Okay, so anyway, yeah, the curvature on this pattern was different for me, so I was like, oh, like, how are we connecting that, right? And it goes all the way around and down the front, which was not what I was used to as far as making a blazer. And the blazer got made, and the welt pockets are real welt pockets and whatnot, but I was really disappointed in the pattern company for providing such a great meaty pattern, great piece of outerwear, and just falling short on providing like adequate instruction. And I was like, well, you know what? Thank God I know how to make a blazer, but can you imagine being like someone who maybe doesn't have as much experience with outerwear or making a blazer, and you spot this pattern and you like it and you love it and you buy it, and just like the disappointment. And on top of that, I spent like, I think it was like $20 US, because it's an Australian company. I spent like $20 on this pattern, and I just was like, so needless to say, this took me a few months to really get through. And it wasn't even the steps, it was just the sheer discouragement all the way through, that I just did not feel supported or have the guidance that I should have had to make this project. And I have not bought another one of their patterns since. How do I organize my patterns? Is there an app? I thought it was so funny that someone was like, oh, do you use an app? I was like, haha. I wish I was that sophisticated. No app, honey, no app. But you know, if there is one, or if someone develops one on how to like organize patterns, I think that's awesome. But I have, like, my room is very limited on space. Like, yes, I have 3 closets, but those 3 closets actually take up 3 different walls. And so where my things are on the walls that have the wall space. So I have, you know, in various places, like in one of these closets is all of my Mimi G and McCall patterns, right? Underneath my TV are all of my Simplicity patterns. And then in that green box, this green box is where I keep everything that I want to work on in a given month. I actually separate them out. And I have a routine where at the beginning of each month, I'll look for the patterns I want to work with in a certain month. Now, does that change? Yes, absolutely. But this is kind of like an easy way, since they're kind of scattered about. This is a very easy way for me to say, oh, I know I want to work on this month. Let me go ahead and grab that. Underneath my cutting table are more McCalls and Nomi patterns. So, and then like in the closet as well, behind me are like, I wouldn't call them the one-off patterns. It's more like any Butterick, Vogue, New Look is in like a small decorative box, like how you see my green box. Because I don't have that many of them, it's just enough to fit in like a small decorative box. And then any digital patterns I have, I used to print them out, and then I realized I was kind of like wasting paper if I didn't like get to it right away. So I ended up putting all of them on a thumb drive, and they're on this thumb drive that I have. Actually, I've like backed those files up because I mean, that's money that I've invested, right? So I have 2 thumb drives with digital copies of the patterns I have purchased. And when I am ready to work on those patterns, I will get those printed off. All right, how long have I been sewing, and was there any formal education? So I have been sewing since I was in high school, so 20 years at this point, and I have been a garment sewer for most of that time. Now, like, have I been like sewing consecutively for 20 years? No, like basically when I learned it in high school, I took a very long hiatus because I was kind of frustrated with it and whatnot. And then I really picked the hobby back up back in like 2016 or 17 to open my Etsy shop. I started blogging in like 2018. So I've really been dedicated to garment sewing in the last, I would say, 6 or 7 years. And as far as like my education with it, so I learned in high school. There was a class, it was called Clothing Design 1, and you could take this learning or education track all the way to your senior year. I was a freshman and I wanted to take this class, so I signed up right away. And I was a C student in that class. I really was. It's not that I didn't understand the concepts. I was impatient with the concepts. I wanted my garment to be done now. And I didn't understand like why I had to stay stitch. Why did I have to interface? Why does this pant have to go like this? Like, I never understood anything like that, and I needed to really know the why. And I still learn like that to this day. I need to understand the why in order to do something the right way. And I didn't see the value in taking those tiny steps. So my projects were always crazy looking, right? And so my teacher, she would constantly give me like a C- on my projects. I think I had to do like pajama pants, and like I think I made like a 1-shoulder top, and like I was like, I don't understand why I have to interface. Like, I sewed the front and the back and I was like, it's done. And she was like, but the darts, the facing, the interfacing, and I was like, but it looks like a top. That's what I remember thinking. And then like what else? I remember we had a sketchbook, and I have the sketchbook somewhere in this room because I found it in storage before I moved here, right? And the sketchbook had the color wheel, and one of our exams was like we had to like provide swatches of like different sketches, or not different sketches, different stitches that we knew how to do on the sewing machine. And then like the extra bonus was like if you could do like a buttonhole and things like that. So I took that class for 1 year. Obviously, like I said, I made a C in that class. But the foundation and fundamentals that I took from that class, I have absolutely taken with me throughout life. And I have, of course, found out the why behind a lot of my failure or behind a lot of my projects. And obviously, I'm a much better sewist now than I was at that class. And from what I understand, my sewing teacher at my high school, she's still shaping young minds and whatnot. And hopefully one day I get to run into her and tell her, hey, I'm a much better sewer now than how I left your class. But yeah, so, and I think for me too was like, I don't think I understood patterns, right? And so I struggled with understanding how to read a pattern. And I struggled with it actually for a very long time. And I would still make garments without patterns. Now, I really made an effort 5 or 6 years ago when I got back into garment sewing. I really made a valiant effort to really relearn patterns the right way. And then that made me a much better sewer. But at first, I didn't understand, like, how does half of a shirt make a whole shirt? Like, I didn't understand I didn't understand the shapes. The shapes were just so nuanced to me. The symbols, I was like, how does anyone keep track of this? It was beyond me. Now it's a complete 180. I look at a pattern, I'm like, oh, that's the front, that's the back. Okay, this must be the sleeve, this must be the other thing. And I totally get it, and I can look at it and I can do it. But being a teenager and seeing patterns for the first time, I didn't get it. I didn't get how something two-dimensional can become 3D. Number 6, favorite time of day to sew: the mornings. I love sewing in the morning time. I love having hot coffee, not like lukewarm, but having like hot coffee and just turning on my machine and getting into something. I feel so accomplished at the end of it. I think for me, the worst time to sew is when I'm tired, because I get frustrated. And that is probably like very short windows of time for me, because I know that if I make a mistake, I have to walk away. I'll revisit it in the morning. So yeah, hands down, favorite time of day to sew is the mornings. Okay, what made me start sewing? So if we want to take it back to high school, what made me want to do that class? I was always interested in fashion. I was always drawing sketches and like coming up with like, you know, hypothetical collections and whatnot that I wanted. And I was like, oh, there's a class where I can learn how to do this. And I signed up for the class. And then what made me start like blogging and doing it the way I do it now is that I started selling things on Etsy, right? And I've told this story a million times, but someone suggested to me to start my Instagram account to kind of like draw in more customers. And I started the account, and then I landed upon this sewing community, right? Where all of these fabulous women, Mimi G, Faith St. Jules, That's So Monica, so many beautiful women were making their own clothes, and it looked amazing. And I was like, there's so many of them that know how to make their own clothes, and they're all doing a beautiful job. And I was like, maybe making clothes is not as hard as I thought it was in high school. And I said, you know what? I really want to learn how to read a pattern the right way. And I dropped my Etsy shop, because at that point I was like selling handmade bags on Etsy, because I thought I was limited to making bags. I thought I'll never know how to make garments. And I dropped my Etsy shop and I said, I just want to make clothes. So I was truly inspired by the sewing community that we all belong to start garment sewing full-time, or 100% of my sewing, be committed to garment sewing 5 or 6 years ago, when I just literally stumbled upon this myriad of posts of just fabulous looking women literally posing in the middle of the street with like these gorgeous outfits. And I was like, if they can do that, I can do that. Like, oh my God. So yeah, that's honestly where it came from. And once I started, like I said, once I started understanding a pattern, once I started really like saying like, oh, these drawings that I had as a kid, these sketches that I have now, these outfits that I want to buy, but they're too expensive, I can make all of this. And it just changed like it changed my whole world. It changed all of the colors in my universe. And now it's like, I don't go shopping and I'm not like upset when they don't have my size or anything like that. Like when I go shopping, it's like for inspiration. I'm like, what are the girls wearing today, right? and I'll look at something and I say, I can make that. I have a pattern like that. I know a pattern like that. And it's so empowering. So I love that. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Now, if you have any other questions for me, don't forget to put them down below for me. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And you can follow me at Raven Maureen on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. See you guys next time. Bye.